Welcome to the monthly truck stop webinars presented by the Motor Carriers Insurance Education Foundation. These webinars are presented the second Thursday of each month at 2 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, or Standard Time, excuse me. These webinars are presented for industry updates information purposes only and do not qualify for state CE credit. We hope to bring our audience information concerning what's happening to motor carriers and how those happenings affect insurance. If you're seeking CE credits, then email us at our office and we will give you information about CE, which we do provide 12 hours each year. That is free to the members of the foundation, except for a slight processing fees.
Tommy, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to chat today with you regarding the insurance opportunities here with technology, with motor carriers, and the opportunity to be able to chat about new technologies in the industry.
Clay, hold on a minute.
And I'll jump in there, right?
Yeah, Beth can take that out.
Okay, perfect.
Let me do one more slide, then let me introduce you, and then we'll do that. She can edit that out, what you just said out, okay?
Perfect.
If you have any questions, please type them in the chat window. They will be answered as time allows or responded to after the webinar via email. And we'll share the answers and the questions if it's a generic nature to everybody who's listening here and also to members of the foundation. If you experience audio problems, please send us a note again in the chat window or call our office at 800-741-484 and we'll attempt to correct the problems as soon as possible. When I say I have the privilege to meet with lawyers periodically, I have because of my friends with Rob Mosley and Ray and Clay Porter and some others have been at the annual the American Conference of Transportation Attorneys last couple years, and I hope there's elite attorneys, about 25 are limited there. Hank Seaton's a part of that program, and others that specialize in providing information and defending truck cases on behalf of the insurance carriers. At that meeting we had last in September of last year, I met Clay Murchison, and again I butchered his name. I promised him I would do that anyway, who gave a very interesting short presentation concerning what's happening to technology that will affect the motor carriers and affect us from a safety standpoint. Clay has been a long-term person involved in the trucking industry, having been doing work for as loss prevention people for various companies, and he started his own company, the Leading Edge Consulting Company, and he's in Minnesota from us today to listen to this, where it's much colder than it is here with me in Fort Myers. Clay, tell them a little bit about yourself. Please tell them how to pronounce your name properly, where you're doing and what you're doing now, and then we'll take over and we'll do the slides. So.
Yeah, thank you, Tommy. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you and the group on the phone here. We have a lot of interesting and cool technology coming out in the industry, and I'm glad to be able to share that with you. Again, my name is Clay Murchison. I'm president of Leading Edge Consulting. I've been in the motor carrier side of the industry, working directly with motor carriers as vice president of safety and risk management and human resources for the past 23 years. Recently, as you said, I started my own consulting firm with the hopes to be able to take all the knowledge that I've been able to gain over the last 20 plus years and help more motor carriers rather than just one motor carrier at a time. So I really enjoy this opportunity to be able to present today, and if there's any questions along the way here, we'll just sort of kind of casually talk about those, Tommy, as we move forward. So we're going to start with the presentation, and the presentation, Innovating Technology in an Evolving Transportation Era. I think the last 5 years there's been just an explosion of technology that has just gone through the industry, and as a carrier, it's difficult to just sort of kind of sift through all of this new technology and really find the direction or the path for the carrier that's going to really breed success. And I
Clay,
think one of the things,
that's
yes.
a point. That's an important point here, because when you talk about carriers, and we deal with this all the time. When I get involved in it, we got two types of carriers here. We have the motor carrier and the insurance carrier, and both of those industries are trying to deal with this new technology. The motor carrier to find out return on investments and crashes and safety. The insurance industry to avoid crashes and what happens. So this is an evolving situation for both of those industries. And as you just said, the 5 years. The things that have happened in 5 years are just unbelievable. And yet the insurance industry, as far as what we deal with, and you and I have talked about this earlier, have to understand, how does this affect their bottom line? The trucking company has to look at their return on investment. The insurance industry has to look at, well, is it helping us to avoid crashes? Is it helping us to know more about our insurance so we can do a better job in pricing and underwriting? So it comes, that's where the two interests meet together. And I appreciate you entering this way. And when we talk about carriers, just remember that we got two carriers that we're talking about here.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. And the idea for me is to focus from the insurance carrier perspective, because a lot of carriers, especially in the motor carrier side of the industry, are small carriers, and they're just not aware of all the technology that's available to them. So this is really informational, fact-finding, and success stories that I could share from other carriers with technology that I know is solid and will work and bring results and drive results for the motor carrier, and then ultimately for the insurance carrier.
Thank you. Let's go on then.
All right, ELDs. We know ELDs. We're just about a year into the ELD mandate now, and I know there's a huge segment of the industry. In fact, it was roughly about 60% of the motor carrier industry did not have an ELD at the beginning of December of last year. So when they decided, when they felt like the ELD mandate actually was going to go into effect, everyone was just scrambling to be able to add that technology into their equipment. And what really happened with that from an industry perspective is most carriers, motor carriers, were just buying plug and play cheap ELDs that were quick installs to be able to meet the mandate. Well, what I want to be able to do is talk about the technology that's out there that could actually drive performance from the motor carrier and improve that performance. So an ELD does meet the ELD mandate with tracking hours of service, but there is a whole lot more technology that is available from the ELD providers. So there's 200 vendors that are out there. How do you sift through all of these vendors with 370 plus different kinds of devices out there? And which one, do you decide is the best for that motor carrier? And I think one of the things that we need to look at is the difference between a tethered and a non-tethered device and the type of technology. So we say I have a picture up on the top right corner of this PowerPoint slide, and that's a tethered device. That's from Omnitrax. It's a laptop type computer inside the truck. It has hours of service capability, but it has all sorts of different capability as well. It's plugged up directly to the ECM, and it's a pretty stable device. This device has actually been around since about 2011. So it's a known technology, it's proven technology, and it's very stable technology.
Clay, when you talk about tether, you mean one that's positive connected to the truck itself. That's the term tether, right? Is that the definition we're using here?
Yes, that's correct.
Versus a Bluetooth kind of a wireless connection here. Now, is this the old ARBs, automatic recording devices, or this is what we look at as the true ELD?
Yeah. So the good thing is with this device is it was an automatic onboard recording device, but they have upgraded the technology over the air to be able to make it ELD compliant. So it is fully 100% ELD compliant.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the second picture below that is what we talk about, that Bluetooth or non-tethered device. And this is sort of kind of the new technology. Rand McNally is actually one of the pioneers with this type of technology and the Bluetooth and the Wi-Fi connectivity without being tethered. This has been around for about 6 years through Rand McNally. They have just introduced this last year, prior to the ELD mandate, their new generation connectivity device, which is called the DC200. This little device right here in blue is actually called an ELD50. So this ELD50 has the Bluetooth technology, so you bring your own device. It could be a tablet, it could be a smartphone. So if you already have a phone and you're an independent contractor, all you have to basically do is buy this little device that plugs up directly to the ECM, and then you Bluetooth or wirelessly connect to it. This is pretty cool technology because I think this is really the wave of the future. Whereas if you have your tablet or your smartphone, now you're really taking your work and all of the things that happen inside and outside of the truck with you. And it is virtual real time. So let me give you a couple examples. When you do your pre-trip inspection in the morning with the top device, you have to walk around, make notes of any repairs or violations that are on the truck, and then get back into your truck and enter in that information and try to get it to the motor carrier to be able to respond to get repairs done. The bottom device, you can take your tablet or your phone with you while you're walking around the truck. You can take pictures of what you see as a violation, send them directly to the maintenance department, and be able to figure out what kind of repairs need to be made so you have instant communication with your fleet maintenance inside program.
Clay, so I know that you're so used to talking to truckers. Obviously, audience, what we're talking about is the drivers can do all this stuff. No agent's going to do this when you can walk around, but we understand that part. But that is cool. We actually, are you familiar with Gorilla program? We had them do one a couple months ago, and what you just talked about relates to what they also offer, as you know, where they'll do the walk around the driver inspection, the vehicle inspection report, and put it automatically into their system. And so that is very cool, where you can use that one device to not only track the hours of service which is required, but also to help in the maintenance part. That's a cool combination of those two. Yeah.
And then this next area is where it really comes in the into fruition, where we talk about the hours of service plus the telematics. So we're gathering all of that information from the ECM. So it's giving you speed events, hard braking events, critical events such as roll stability events, any other type of automatic onboard recording technology that you might have on the truck, lane guidance, speed and space management, brake assist, and all of that. And it's actually passing all of that information on over to your TMS, internal TMS, from the motor carrier perspective. So one of the things that, from an insurance perspective, that is important is this gathering of data to be able to really find out where your risk is at from each individual motor carrier that you're working with. Smart dispatch integration is also another very, very cool piece. And I'm going to move on to the next slide here, because that's going to illustrate what the smart dispatch integration will do for the motor carrier side. So when we look at the top of this screen, I have the smart dispatch integration, and then I have this long box up at the top. And this is a typical TMS platform that a motor carrier will have from the dispatch perspective. What the ELD device has the ability to do is automatically integrate the technology from their web-based platform from the ELD vendor into the motor carrier's TMS, operational TMS. So the dispatcher can essentially see all of the information from the ELD web portal automatically integrated into his work platform. So he doesn't have to pop back and forth between two different systems, his TMS and then the ELD provider's web portal, to be able to see communication between his truck, to be able to see where the truck is physically located, to be able to see how many hours of service the drivers have left, and that automatically integrates into the TMS when we're thinking of planning and dispatching and the next loads, to be able to see if the driver actually has the hours of service available to be able to complete the next trip that you're planning for him. So it's very, very cool technology. I call it smart dispatch integration. Very neat stuff that's able to help the motor carrier become more efficient and more profitable.
Clay, let me ask you a question. This is real time. Is this because the motor carrier has access to the smartphone or to the computer or to the tablet that the driver has? Is that how this connects, or does there have to be a different mechanism to allow them to have this real time?
Yeah, so the mechanism that causes this to happen real time is going to be an API pass. So a data pass transfer between the ELD provider and the TMS from the motor carrier. So for example, I'll say OmniTrax is going to be my ELD provider, and they are going to share all of the data points that they're going to get from the ECM through the ELD, and they're going to open up those data points to McLeod or Innovative as the TMS. Innovative will hook all that up, or McLeod will hook all that up, and then push all of the data into the TMS for operations. Okay,
so is there, other than the wireless phone bills and all, there's an additional cost to this, obviously? Or I know OmniTrack has a monthly fee involved in it, but I'm sure there are other providers that have that also.
Yeah, so you do provide, so for the perspective from the TMS provider, yes, they charge a one-time fee to be able to do this this setup and integration. Okay. And it just depends on the size of the motor carrier, if they're already connected with the ELD provider, or if there needs to be a new integration, completed between, all of these ELD providers. And then you have the smart dispatch integration, which is a software package that you add and bolt on to the top of your TMS, and that would be a one-time cost as well.
The other thing I would want to add is, because you have the real-world experience dealing with a motor carrier, obviously what you're talking about is some of the stuff that we do with event recorders, and I know that's been in the marketplace a long time. And the idea of the driver saying, the big brother is watching me. How are you seeing any resistance to this kind of technology from the people who want to be on their own, and the independents, particularly independent contractors, owner operators? Because clearly, back on our lawyers' deal, to put this in an owner operator's vehicle, we've got to make sure that we have proper contractual relationships with that owner operator to allow this to happen. But are you seeing any pushback from the drivers that are either employees or independent contractors because of you're tracking me all the time, you're following me all the time?
Not anymore. Since the ELD mandate came out, they came out with specific guidelines for an independent contractor. And when that independent contractor goes into personal conveyance mode, the ELD actually changes the way it tracks the driver. So if he's in personal conveyance, it does not give you an exact GPS ping location. It gives you a general area GPS location within 10 miles of where the truck is at. Okay. So with the ELD mandate, they basically eliminated, that potential issue or concern that we had underneath the AOBDR rules.
And a part of that also, there's anti-harassment provisions in that also. That's what held it up the first time, so they came out be used to harass the driver. So I like that idea. I did not realize that the personal conveyance, how the different way where he or she is on duty or off duty, which was charged a different thing. That's important.
Yeah.
I know you're going from Jacksonville to Wilmington here on this right-hand side, right?
Yeah, yeah. So of course, hey, we love Florida because it's a lot warmer, especially this time of the year. So we had to put a southern route in here.
Well,
so,
Wilmington. I was born about 40 miles north of Wilmington, so I'm very familiar with that route. I've traveled that route often.
We're on the same connection then and the same wavelength then. So yeah, so what we have here in addition to the smart dispatch integration is we also have the ability for the motor carrier to be able to actually map and breadcrumb trail where the driver is at. So this is real-time information, and then it will go back, and depending on the ELD provider, it goes back from a couple days all the way up to about 2 weeks worth of breadcrumb trail positioning that you could get. So that would be over on the left side with that mapping. Right. And then over on the right side, the route optimization, again, is another piece of technology that you could bolt on to your TMS. And what it would do is, again, through McLeod or Innovative or whatever TMS provider you have, it would actually take the dispatch route that the driver is on. It would send the preferred route optimization, whether you use shortest, most practical routing, or maybe the quickest routing, or whatever it might be, and then it would actually send that route to the driver and say, here's where you want to route and drive. Here is even where you want to fuel, and you could add a fuel optimizer to it to get the best fuel pricing through all the states that you're driving through as well. So it really helps us drive improvement in efficiency, out of route miles, fuel efficiency and economy, and then just overall efficiency of the driver and performance of the driver.
And there's two other things here. The one thing I talk about on the recording part of it is that when I talk about GPS and same kind of technology here is that if for some reason the driver is delayed because of traffic accidents, having to go around Atlanta, Georgia in the wrong time of day, at least now the dispatcher can alert the shipper why they're being late. So take some of that anxiety away from the driver of having to be at point B at a certain time. Helps in there. The other thing, could you overlay potential parking areas on this map? I assume you could.
Yeah, so that is in the works. There's a few companies that have come out over the last couple of years that are actually trying to get the truck route or the truck parking added into the TMS. It's a little clunky right now because they just don't have all of the technology and all the truck stops yet to be able to count, what the open parking spaces are. But that is a work in progress, and like I said, there are a few companies that are out there. Some of it is based on video technology, so adding video cameras, to the parking lot and be able to, electronically monitor how many open spaces there are. And then another version of that would be the truck stop sort of kind of says how many parking spaces they have, and then drivers go in there and they on an app, and they tell or reserve a parking space in that truck stop. I don't think that technology is probably going to win out long term because you have to have all 3.5 million, over the road drivers connected to one app. So I think the technology that's going to win out on that is just going to be video cameras, and they're going to be able to electronically view and see what open spaces are available.
I see some states have it because I was going to South Carolina for Thanksgiving the other day, and I saw where in Florida it showed prior to a rest area, there were 22 parking spots at that rest area. So some states have that ability now, so all they have to do is figure out how to tap into that system, correct?
Yes, yep, that's the system I'm talking about. And then, of course, developing the system throughout the whole enterprise and the whole nation.
Okay, great. This is interesting.
Yeah. And then one more thing, and this is a separate piece of technology. It's called, one of the vendors is called P44. It's called Project 44. When we were talking about, you having the ability real time to be able to see your truck and then communicate that to the customer and where their load is at. Project 44 is a technology that is out there that says, hey, we are actually going to take some of this information that you're getting from your ELD provider, not all of it, some of it, and we're going to hook up to your customer's TMS platform, and we're actually going to pass some data on over to them, so then they don't have to call you to track the load. They can actually see where their load is at. So again, that's a piece of technology. One of the providers that offers that is called Project 44. So what they're trying to do is essentially eliminate the need for a customer to call the motor carrier to track and trace their load. All right. Any questions for me, regarding ELD technology and where we're at in the industry over the last 12 months here?
No, this is evolving stuff, and obviously if anybody here has questions, type it in the chat window, and we'll get back to you, email, and ask Clay to respond to it later. All right, let's move to the next connection things.
All right. Yeah, so this next piece of technology has actually been around, I want to say 5 or 6 years is my integration to being able to connect the engine of the truck to the maintenance department. And the large manufacturer providers such as Detroit Diesel and Volvo and these engine manufacturers, what they've done over the last couple of years, and like I say, it's about 5 years now, is they're trying to give real-time communication to the maintenance department regarding the engine or codes on the truck. So what would happen in the past from a motor carrier perspective is, our drivers are working out there, especially from an irregular route over the road truck, and you don't see that truck in the maintenance shop for weeks or maybe even months at a time. Well, the only way that you're going to know if anything is going wrong with that truck is if the driver is going to communicate with the shop. What we end up seeing is obviously a driver wants to not take downtime and not lose miles or anything like that. So if a code pops up on his dash, he'll basically ignore that code or not talk about it with the maintenance department until maybe he gets back into the shop. So what this does is Detroit Connect has a software package on the engine. It electronically sends and transmits the data from the engine and the information from the engine to the maintenance department. So they could actually see that exact code that is popping up on the driver's dash and be able to determine if that is a code that's going to result in a immediate breakdown or soon, a future breakdown that's going to be recent, or if they have maybe a week or two before that breakdown might occur. So this is really cool technology as well, because a driver will see that code pop up, and basically it's just a check engine light pop up on his truck, and he doesn't know what the code is. Well, now it's passing that information on over to a maintenance technician that is obviously very knowledgeable with the truck and be able to determine if that check engine light is important and needs to get repairs into a shop right away, or if he could wait a week or two to get into a shop. So gives us the time and the data to be able to see if we can route the truck back to the shop and avoid over-the-road costly repairs from a third-party vendor, or breakdowns on the side of the road and even more expense on the side of the road.
Yeah, that's a great idea here.
All right, our next slide here has to do with video technology. Video technology is pretty near and dear to my heart. I've been working with DriveCamlytics technology, which is one of the video technology providers out here, since 2011. I've been familiar with their technology when they first came into the marketplace, and they were the pioneer in the marketplace back in the early 2000s. The technology has really, really grown, and this is one of the most quickest growing and expanding technologies from a motor carrier perspective. This, in my opinion, from a insurance carrier perspective, is probably one of the most important pieces of technology to help drive reductions of severity and frequency. Video technology obviously gives us a video picture of what's going on. We're able to actually watch the game and the drivers perform. We have different kinds of abilities with the video technology now. It's, again, really boomed over the last 5 years, and you're seeing just hundreds of video technology providers out there in the marketplace now. One of the things I want to talk about over the next couple of slides here is what are the considerations that we should have as a motor carrier, and then also from the insurance perspective. How much video should we get? Should it be inward facing and outward facing technology? And what kind of clarity of video should we be capturing? So these pieces of information really help us drive down claims, losses, or it could hurt us if we're not choosing the right kind of video capture, technology, and clarity. So one of the things I want to do is, of course, you know, video really speaks 1,000 words. So I want to be able to just show a video clip here of an accident. And then we'll talk about what kind of technology is available and why it's important for us maybe to consider inward and outward dual facing cameras or single facing cameras. So we see right here in this video, our driver is driving down the road, and you can't see it in this picture or screenshot that I have, but on the actual video platform, you would actually see the speed of the driver, the G-forces of the driver, whether it's a lateral G-force or forward or rearward G-force, and all sorts of telematic data on the background. But what we see here is we see, you know, the driver is driving, we're coming up to a T intersection, that car approaches the T intersection and for whatever reason slows to the stop sign and then just pulls straight on out into the trailer tandems of the semi driver. The semi driver actually, her tandems actually run over the hood of that car. That's what causes her to lose control of her trailer as it's bouncing around, and then she ultimately rolls over. The interesting story with this is this driver indicated that the initial report to the police was that he was actually driving. He tried to pass him and ran over the top of his car and lost control. So video technology obviously just gives us clarity of exactly what happened at the event, and then, you know, discredits the other party right away. The things that we want to consider with the video technology is if we have inward facing technology and outward facing technology, or only outward facing technology. I think we need to look at it from two different perspectives. One perspective being a company type driver that we're managing or looking at, and the other, an independent contractor. An independent contractor, you don't want to control that independent contractor. So if you choose to have dual facing cameras and roll out dual facing cameras to try to reduce frequency and severity, you definitely want to consider an independent contractor driver and how you're going to manage that video from an independent contractor's perspective. You want to only gather data that are going to be law-abiding or law-breaking type events from an independent contractor, and then relate that to the contract that you have with that IC. So if they're breaking or violating the law, then that's where you want to come in from a motor carrier perspective and be able to manage their behavior, but we only want to manage behavior that is going to be violations of law. From a company driver perspective, this is where, you know, we could really get the data and really fix or improve driver performance. So we could look at behaviors of that driver, be able to drive down you know, the way he operates the truck, where he looks, how he looks, you know, his, what I'm going to call his form and technique of operating the truck to really, really improve and get huge results from how he operates that truck on a go-forward basis. The second thing that we want to consider is going to be the video clarity of the camera system in use. This video that we watched was a 720p, which is as close as you could get to the human eye perspective. This is where, from my standpoint, from a motor carrier viewpoint and from a litigation perspective, I want to see what the driver's perspective was as close as I can to that driver's perspective. So I am a huge advocate of 720 video clarity, and that's it. If I have 4K clarity, then I'm going to get scrutinized from from plaintiff's bar, and I'm going to say, and that plaintiff's bar is going to sit out there and say, hey, you can see my client, you know, a mile down the road, and you did nothing about it. You knew, and you should have anticipated, you know, that he was going or she was going to do something. Well, with the 720p technology, it's as close as you could get to the human eye, and we're not able to see stuff that a 4K camera could see. So it gives us real good clarity of what the driver's perspective was.
Clay, there's one other thing when you talk about when you talk about this and some of the resistance in it. One of the advantages from the insurance standpoint is if the driver did something wrong, we know it up front, and we don't pay these lawyers and we don't pay reconstruction. We start immediately addressing the damages and making restitution for the damages done, which ends up saving a lot of money. It costs a lot to defend a case, a couple $100,000 to just do reconstruction, all this. If it goes to court, then you're still rolling the dice. So a lot of people say, well, if I'm doing something wrong, then the plaintiff's attorney knows about it. Well, so will the defense attorneys, and so will the insurance carriers. So in those cases, it gives them a guidance of how to handle the claim itself. Either deny it because we have the evidence, because we weren't negligent, like in this case, or we were negligent, or did the damage and caused the damage. So we'll go ahead and handle that in a different method. Just something that when you talk to people that you've heard that resistance, I'm sure that, well, they're going to see if we did something wrong. Just let them know how that can also factor in.
Yeah, and exactly. This, what I call that is, I want to know if my baby is going to be ugly. So, you know, you have the visibility to be able to see, you know, what you really have in front of you. You know, are you going to have an ugly baby that you got to deal with, or do you have something good that you're going to be proud of and be able to share, you know, with plaintiff's bar, with the police. I've done real-time police downloads and been able to get that information off of the video camera, send it, review it while the police are there, and then I actually email the video to a police officer, so then he can write up the appropriate, you know, report that's going to say who was the contributing factor, what was the contributing factor, and who was at fault. So it really, really helps us from a motor carrier perspective to be able to see right away what kind of position we're in. And then, like you said, yeah, if it's bad, then we're just going to deal with it right away. We own the technology, we own the video, so the only way they would be able to get it would be through subpoena. So it gives us the ability to really be able to close out the case, like you said, as quick as we can, and we know what we're dealing with.
Yeah, that helps a lot.
Yeah, the second video, second slide here, again, just gives us the ability on the accident reconstruction side, and then how we coach and manage our drivers to see if they're doing the right thing or not. So with this video right here, I think the Warner case down in Texas is still true and new to our hearts here the last 6 months, where this lady from the opposite side of the interstate with several children in the car lost control, crossed the median, ended up hitting a Warner truck head on, and then I think we had a $100 million verdict. And, you know, we were absolutely astonished.
I think it was 91, but who quivers over that much?
Right. Yeah, 90 to 100 million. But, you know, yeah. Texas had two huge cases. Yeah. One, I think you're right. I think the Werner one was 90 million, and then one a couple months later was 101 million. So, yeah, you're right. But, yeah, when we look at that, you know, if Werner had a video camera inside the truck, I think that there would have been, and I don't think, I ultimately just deep down in my heart know, there would have been a totally different outcome from that case. So, you know, you can see this video technology. You can look and see what the driver is doing. And you could see this driver, he had both hands on the wheel, or I should say one hand on the wheel, one hand on his gearbox. And his eyes are moving. He's going below the speed limit. Once that driver of that automobile starts getting over into that exit lane and hits the snow and starts losing control, he's taking immediate action. He's looking in his mirror. He's slowing down, not to the point where he's dynamiting the brakes and jackknifing his truck and causing more havoc. He's maintaining control, moving over and trying to get away from the situation as much as he can. Again, this was an exoneration video that we had, and it was really able to save us. Well, in fact, it didn't even go in the lawsuit. We did get attorney correspondence, and we immediately sent over a video to him and said, look, you don't have a case. And the case was dropped within weeks.
Clay, there's one thing, and I never thought about in this area until we came up here, but also some of the recent sports things where you have the female abuse cases where the professional athletes are abusing either their spouse or significant others or just the public, and the difference how people treat it, where there's an allegation and two people say what happened versus where there's a video. In the cases that we have seen, as when there's just a discussion back and forth, they become slow or little action. But once the video becomes public, then there's a major action taken. So that just shows the impact of the video versus the verbal who said, she said.
Yeah, that's correct. And, you know, one of the things that actually got me started with the video technology was I started a finishing program at the carrier I was at. And one of the things I wanted to be able to do was, first of all, you know, you have a team and you got a trainer and a student inside a truck. I wanted to be able to actively monitor any bad events that would occur inside that truck. There are automatic triggers that you could do, or buttons that you could push inside your drive cam to automatically record and go back and loop back some information. And then it also gives you a perspective from a trainee or trainer perspective to be able, in a motor carrier perspective, to be able to review what the student did from a trainer perspective. And we could pull up the video, we have it, and now we could bring them on in and actually review that video just like, you know, coaches do with athletes. So it really, really helped us improve, you know, bringing on student drivers and improving the performance of the student driver, because now you're teaching them and you're coaching them the right way on how to maneuver that truck and how to operate that truck. I'm going to share just a little bit of information about that as well. So my students, when I started the student program and ran students, we were running about 100 students a year through our program. And my turnover was about 20% less than my company driver or experienced driver turnover, and my loss cost, so the cost per accident or loss, was 60% less than an experienced driver. So wow. I had fewer accidents and severity was substantially reduced. I was teaching drivers how to drive trucks the correct way. We were coaching them, we were mentoring them, and we were helping them mold them to be a great driver. So absolutely, this is my favorite piece of technology that we're going to discuss today.
Let's move on then. Okay.
All right. Yeah, so this next slide here is really, this is what we're going to call about a bleeding edge technology, because this is absolutely brand new technology that is less than probably about 4 or 5 months in the market. This is called the fatigue meter. And the fatigue meter really gives us the ability to keep drivers from operating the equipment while they're fatigued, sleepy, or tired. So what this does is it takes the ELD data, it takes other pieces of information from the truck, so your hard braking events, your speed and space events, your speed management events, as well as driver data, and it predicts when a driver will be fatigued. And it will tell you what kind of sleep or rest the driver needs to have in order to get the alertness back. This was actually taken, this technology was created, I think 5 or 6 years ago for the airline industry and pilots. And it is exclusively used in the airline industry. American Airlines, a lot of the large airline providers actually use this technology on all of their pilots. They have transferred and manipulated this technology for trucks to be able to get us accurate information on trucks now, to be able to see if a driver is going to be fatigued and notify the driver and operations on when a driver is fatigued and needs to shut down. It also provides the recommendation on how long of a break the driver needs to take in order to restore his awareness. Most of the time, or many of the times, if it's during the day, it will just ask the driver to stop for 15 minutes. So ask him to stop for 15 minutes and either get out of the truck or take a power nap. So very, very cool data. What we're seeing with the motor carrier perspective, JB Hunt is testing this in beta test, and we've seen a more than 50%, or they have seen more than a 50% reduction in fatigue-related events with this technology.
Wow.
So pretty cool stuff.
So on the bottom of this, trucking a fatigue meter, that's what you could Google and find out in more detail on?
That's correct, yes. It's
okay.
called trucking fatigue meter. Yes.
Right, that's cool, okay.
All right, our next piece of technology that we want to talk about.
This is cool.
Yep, my slide is frozen just a minute here. There we go. All right. Yeah, side camera mirrors. So this is pretty cool, and I'm actually going to play this video because there's not really going to be any sound to it, but you're going to actually see it as I'm talking here. So this piece of technology, what it will do is it will actually replace the left and right side mirrors with a little camera. So you see the illustration or picture that I have on the left, and you see there's no side mirror there. There's a little bar that stretches out, and it has a couple different cameras mounted to that. And then you have a virtual mirror inside your truck, which is really a tablet mounted to the A-frame pillars of your truck, and it's showing you what is outside. Now, what I love about this technology is, you know, drivers have mirrors on their trucks, and they don't have their mirrors set up appropriately all the time. And with that, they have a lot of blind spots, and they're not able to see the tail end of their truck or trailer all the time. This is the perfect mirror setup 100% of the time. So you could always see the rear of your tandems, the rear of your trailer, the corner, that car when you're making that right-hand turn, you know, the light pole or the fire hydrant that's sitting there. It's always in view and visibility. The other thing that it does is it gives you, actually, as you look at this, you see a larger range of visibility than a normal mirror can provide. So you never lose those tandems in your mirrors. So very, very cool piece of technology. The other thing that I like about this is, when you're parked in the truck stop, from a motor carrier perspective, other trailers backing in and they tear off your mirror and all that stuff, and then you can't operate until you get your mirror replaced. Well, now you don't have that thing sticking out there anymore, that wing to get clicked off anymore. It's protected inside your truck. The other thing that I love about it is you don't have to worry about weather anymore as well. So, your old mirrors are out there and they get fogged up and steamed up and all of that stuff. This little mirror that's sitting out there, this camera that's sitting out there is heated. So it gives you the ability to be able to keep your side mirrors from getting, iced up and fogged up.
How available is this?
Yeah, so this is brand new technology. It is available, but there is only one state right now that has an exemption to replace. Right.
Yeah, you got state requirements to have mirrors on trucks. I forgot about that. Yes.
Correct. Yeah. So Texas is the only state right now that fully allows it. They are working with FMCSA to get a federal exemption across all states. So that is not available yet. So that's why you see JB Hunt, having the external mirror still on the truck. So they are using this in Texas, but some of their trucks will obviously leave Texas. And this is obviously up there in Arkansas at their corporate headquarters where they're filming this video.
Who's the manufacturer of this?
Oh, wow.
That's okay.
Yep. I'm sorry. I don't remember. I don't recall.
Okay, no problem.
The manufacturer.
Would this be purchased with the truck itself as an add-on, or when you buy the truck from Navistar or from Freightliner or from Kentworth?
Yeah, right now it's not going to be an add-on. It's just an OEM product that you have to, buy aftermarket and remove your mirror and put this camera on. But I imagine it will become a manufactured technology, just like the video cameras are now through Volvo and Freightliner.
Okay, thank you.
All right, our next piece of technology is what I really call this fuel management technology. So what we're able to do with this, with the ELDs now is, I talked about getting all of the ECM data information to be able to gather just all sorts of telematics from the truck. What I've done with this telematic data since about 2008 is I take this telematic data and I pull all sorts of ECM data information: clutch, fuel, throttle, speed, gear, RPMs. And what I do is I am able to find the exact sweet spot of the truck in every gear with every engine. In fact, I received a Innovators Award, I think it was back in maybe 2013 or 14, regarding this. And you can see over on the right side the data that we're able to do with MPGs. So that very far right column, you can see that, these trucks and have driven, a trip, and they go 700 miles, 500 miles, 400 miles, and we're getting anywhere from 7.5 plus miles per gallon up to 15 miles per gallon per truck per load. So we know fuel is very volatile. We know we have these ebbs and flows with fuel pricing, and when fuel goes up to $3, $4 a gallon, this is where the motor carrier can really help drive their performance and profitability. I know one motor carrier, I was able to save over $10 million a year in MPGs.
Now, is this equipment you add on, or is this something that's already, what's this equipment here, Clay?
Yeah, this is information that is already inside the truck through the ELD.
Okay.
So this is information that I'm gathering from the ELD, or in the olden days, it would have been the AOBDR.
Okay.
The next piece of technology, and we see this coming out here too. I actually created a predictive model back in the late 90s with one motor carrier I was at. And I have subsequently sort of kind of tweaked that along my way in every motor carrier I've worked at, depending on the issues or problems that they have. But predictive modeling is huge from an insurance carrier perspective, because now we could actually see who our risky drivers are and what their total performance is. So when we think from a carrier perspective and we're trying to figure out, how are we going to bid this carrier, and how are we going to figure out, if this carrier should have, are trending the right way, and if they're actually going to be able to maintain those positive trends to get premium reductions, this gives us the bang for the buck to be able to do that. Like I said, I've been doing this now for close to a decade and a half on this predictive modeling. And I've really been able to prove to the insurance carrier that the programs I have set up work, and they are stable, and it drives stability within the motor carrier, and which ultimately bleeds to the insurance agent and the insurance company. So they know, if they're working with me, that I am going to be consistent, and I'm going to be one of the top performers all the time, every time.
Now, this is, again, just using the data that's already available, putting into your proprietary formulas and things like that?
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Now, there are companies out here that do this as well, and they've been coming out, you've probably seen them, I guess, past 4 or 5 years, where they're doing this driver scorecard and predictive modeling. This one is mine, homegrown. I do this all myself, and this is what I've been doing for the last 15 years as part of risk management and running safety programs.
When you talk about stability, this also helps in the retention of the drivers when you use that term?
Absolutely.
Okay. Because that's the big key. Yeah, the insurance industry uses that as the major benchmark. How long has the driver been there? What percentage of the drivers have been there over a year? So more stability, getting back to your previous training with the videos plus this adds some stability to the driver force. That's a very positive thing from an insurance standpoint.
Correct. Yes, very much so. And I've had huge reductions in insurance premiums when I go to a motor carrier and set up these programs and processes. So it's just been really, really helpful. And then again, it just gives that stability from the insurance company side to be able to have a peace of mind and say, man, am I going to worry, going to bed every night, what's going to happen overnight, or what's going to happen, during the day? Am I going to get that big one happen, with the motor carrier? It really helps us reduce our probability of a large claim.
All right, Clay, I think we got one more slide, and then we're about up for an hour here. Let's see what the next one is. Tell us about this.
Yeah. So this one is again, just almost leading edge. This is brand new technology. In fact, I met with this company last month. It's called Avatar Fleet Services. They've been in the market and in the industry a long time. But what they've developed and what they've done is really taken the driver through the whole life cycle now from a TMS type perspective. So, in the past, what you did is you had like a 10 Street or some kind of application software package, that you would vet a driver through. And then once they became onboarded, then they moved to your TMS system. And, you weren't necessarily looking at all of the data from the past, from their prior employers and all of that stuff. And then you had, a separate training and learning management system and all of that stuff. What Avatar has done is they have taken everything with this driver from pre-hire through your TMS, including the training, all in one platform. So it's really cool to be able, you see it down at the bottom, it says recruit, hire, train, and retain. So it really is the true life cycle of the driver through one TMS now. And it is a very, very robust platform, very cool technology. I really enjoyed my time at Avatar. I spent about a day and a half there looking at the system and reviewing the system, and it was just so cool. So I added this into our slide here because I think this is going to be, again, maybe the pioneer of managing a driver through the life cycle, and this is the company that's the pioneer leading edge on this.
Well, and all this gets back to what you talked about. This is because there's more data now being started before with the event recorders and now with the EDLs and the GPS's connection with all this kind of stuff. This is where now we got more data about what the driver's doing away from when we can see them. And so now it falls into all your formulas, the ones for fuel, the ones for the driver score, and this kind of stuff. This is what's new, is it not? The bottom line of it, Clay?
Yes, that exactly. You hit the nail right on the head.
Okay. Well, let's go one more. If you got any questions and answers, we're out of time here. Just email us again, and we'll get back with you and with Clay and get you answers. Clay, I look forward to staying in touch with you, my friend. Maybe you can come down to Florida and be warm and visit with us sometimes if it's in the summer. And I look forward to possibly having you part of the annual conference when we talk about here in October. But we really appreciate your time and efforts in this area on behalf of the motor carriers and half of the drivers to keep them safe. Remind you that the next truck stop webinar will be Thursday, January the 10th at 2 p.m. We hope you have a good holiday and a good Christmas and the start of a new 2019. With that done, we're out of here. Again, Clay, thank you.
Thank you.